Are you looking to expand your aesthetic practice and attract high-quality new patients? Discover the power of digital marketing in growing your practice with a personalized strategy session. Schedule your meeting today by visiting www.businessofesthetics.org/MSM and take the first step towards transforming your practice with the potential of digital marketing.
You're invited to join our exclusive monthly webinar brought to you by the Business of Aesthetics community. Don't let this chance slip through your fingers. Secure your spot now for a game-changing experience. Register for free on our homepage at www.businessofesthetics.org and get set to transform your strategies.
Welcome to another episode of the Business of Aesthetics podcast, brought to you by our gold sponsors, Ekwa Marketing. Today, we're excited to welcome Michael Walker. Let's dive into his insights and experiences.
Welcome to another segment of the Business of Aesthetics podcast. I'm Michael Walker, your host for this episode. Before we get started, I want to thank all of our incredible listeners from the United States, Canada, and around the globe. We couldn't do this without your continuous support. A special thank you also goes out to our sponsors for this episode, Ekwa Marketing. With nearly 20 years of experience, Ekwa Marketing is a leader in digital marketing services for aesthetics practices. They are offering our listeners a complimentary digital marketing consultation, which will include a tailor-made 12-month digital strategy for your practice. You'll find the link over at www.businessofesthetics.org/MSM to book your consultation. You'll be able to go there. I'll bring that back up as we wrap up our time together today. But without further delay, let's dive into our theme for today, online strategies to attract more patients in 2025. Joining us today is Naren Arulrajah, the founder of the Business of Aesthetics podcast and the CEO of Ekwa Marketing. Welcome, Naren. It is wonderful to have you back with us today.
I'm really happy to be doing this with you, Michael. And I know I've met many of you who listen to this podcast over the years. We can't do what we do without you. So as we look forward to 2025, I want to say, Happy New Year. And I want to wish you the very best in 2025. We have been on a journey for 4+ years, and I hope to continue this and continue to make it better and better for all of you who are trying to build a better practice, better team, serve more patients. So hopefully we'll keep bringing you awesome content, and today is one of that pieces.
Thanks, Naren. And just to set the tone for that, some of you are probably been with us for a long time. Some of us, this might actually be your first podcast. But let me share a little bit of Naren's background with you. As a self-described serial entrepreneur, I'm not sure if I think that serial is a healthy thing, isn't it?
I think in this case, I hope it's healthy. At least that's how I see it.
Naren finds his purpose in serving others and helping medical practice owners, doctors, spa owners, and other professionals in the dermatological, plastic surgery, and aesthetics fields find success and personal fulfillment. Naren, as I mentioned, is the founder and CEO of Ekwa Marketing, who bring together global experts in digital marketing to an online presence of approximately 200 practices across the globe, from startups to growing businesses, including those going through mergers and acquisitions. So based on the questions that I'd like to jump right into, I think we got the right guy at the table to answer them. So, Naren, if it's okay with you, I'm going to go right ahead with some questions we have lined up.
Perfect.
So the first question that we're going to lead off with is, what are the top online tools or strategies that have helped practices attract more patients in this past year?
Yeah, so as many of you know, digital marketing is responsible for 95% of new patients in aesthetics. So, and within digital marketing, there are 4 buckets. One is search engine optimization. That is, you get free traffic, i.e. potential customers, coming to your website, picking up the phone and calling you through Google. You don't pay Google anything. It's called earned media. You earn your right to show up at the top of Google for very specific search terms, and then therefore those people become your patients. Number one, that's called SEO. Number two, same thing with social media companies. So when I think of social media companies, the top ones that I'm sure all of us are thinking of is Instagram and TikTok. And there is earned media. And the way that works in social media world is they're not targeting local people, they're targeting a global audience. So a great video is shown to people in multiple countries, leave alone just the US or Canada. So you have this awesome video that 10 million people watch from all over the world. We all can relate to people like that. We call them influencers. So for example, Pimple Popper is one of them. She's a global influencer. Anytime she posts a video, she's getting 100,000 views literally within 24 hours. Typically, there are a few things I noticed about these influencers. One is they have at least 100,000 plus followers, And to get there, they typically spend 2 to 3 years, 20 hours a week, really producing a lot of content. And they really study that particular platform they're in, really master it, and then just go to work 20 hours a week, just producing content, good content that resonates. And then they become the face of the business. And 99% of the time, it's the owner. And the reason is people don't come for a team member, they come for who represents the business. So typically that's what happens. But both the first and the second option, there is a catch, right? Because it's free, always there's a catch. The catch with Google is 5% of you will benefit from all the free traffic. In other words, 95% of the free traffic. And that's because Google doesn't make any money when they give you free traffic, right? It makes $0. So they don't want to do it. But they have to do it because if Google was only full of ads, nobody will use Google anymore. So they have to keep SEO to keep people using Google. So, but they make it really hard so that because most people don't stay in the 5%, they have to go and give Google, tens of thousands of dollars in ad money. So that's how Google makes $307 billion every year. Social media, same thing. They don't make money by giving you free content to all these influencers, but without those influencers, they can't get people to spend time on their platform. The Pimple Popper video that's seen 100,000 times means, let's say the video was 4 minutes long, 400,000 minutes of people on Instagram. Now they say, okay, for every 3 minutes or every 2 minutes of you being on Instagram, I'll show you an ad. So now that they can monetize, just like Google can monetize that free traffic into dollars, right? Now, Google belongs to the top 5%. Organic social media belongs to the top 1%. Why? Because, same reason, unless you are doing a lot of good for them, which is you're driving hundreds of thousands of people, or the only way you can get traffic from these people is to pay for ads. So the last two options are paid social media and paid Google, which is called, PPC, sometimes pay-per-click, or Google AdWords, that's the name of the program. So those are the 4 buckets. Now, in general, I'll give you my observations. SEO can be outsourced. That's one of the pluses compared to free social media where you can't outsource being an influencer. So that's one plus of SEO. And but both of them are competitive, right? 5% for SEO and then top 1% for influencer. Now, the ads, the beautiful thing is you can turn it on and you can get results today, right? But the problem with both ads is there's no trust. They know it's an ad. It's marked as an ad. So you need to literally go through 10 people to get one good person who's interested in you, because we come with mindsets. The minute we click on an ad, our mindset is what's the catch? What's wrong with this? Minute we find something organic, we are like, wow, what a great, company or practice or whatever. So that bias on one hand makes us choose you, which is where SEO shines. And on the other hand, with ads, it makes people doubt you, whether it's a social media ad or Google ad. So you end up spending typically 5 times more for Google ads compared to SEO. SEO is the lowest cost. And then with social media ads, it's even more expensive. So typically it's like double the price of even Google ads. So that's kind of my experience, having done this for 18 years now in 2020 as of 2025. My favorite, of course, is SEO. And of course, that's what I do with my clients. So you might say I'm biased. The other reason I like it is you don't have to do it. Somebody else can do it for you. So, and most of my doctors, having done this for 18 years, I know they don't want to spend 20 hours on marketing, whether it's being an influencer or any other kind of marketing every single week. They want somebody else to do it because A, they get paid more being a doctor or being a healthcare provider versus being a marketer, right? So that's kind of my experience. I would recommend, focusing on SEO as a core strategy, because once you get into the top 5%, and you get 95% of the free traffic, you have an unfair advantage. Your cost of marketing is significantly low, and it becomes a machine, right? Because it's done for you, it's done by other people. Your goal is to make sure it gets better and better every year. So every year the machine is stronger, produces more new patients. That's the way you should think about it.
Wow, Naren, that is really well placed. And I think as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, my goodness, there's a couple things that jump out. One, you make it sound, there's only 4 components, but those 4 components are rather complex and move at the speed of light. It seems with how things keep evolving and the logarithms and all the stuff that, I've learned that I'm not an expert at stuff like that. So hiring an expert for me just makes a lot of sense, kind of like in the medical profession. I don't know how to do a facelift, but I probably don't want to try and find how to do that on Google. I want to hire an expert. But the next question is, that's kind of the tools and strategies, and thank you for sharing that. The next one kind of takes us home to the base, which is the second question is, how can your website be optimized to convert more visitors to patients? So we've got these people now starting to come in. How is this? How are we doing on conversions?
Yeah, so let me take the SEO example and just walk you through the life of a new customer, i.e. patient. So they go to Google, they start Googling things, right? They're either typing in something they heard of, or I heard of Botox, or I heard of this new procedure, or they have a problem and they're typing in, wrinkles and what can I do about wrinkles? And they keep running into different things. You can use some creams, and you can, do a facelift, or you can do, on the high, the most, intrusive end, or you can, perhaps, rely on things like Botox, right? So they're researching, and when they're researching, they're doing it for 2 reasons. One is to educate themselves on what the solutions are and what are the options. On the other hand, they want to figure out who can help them, who can they trust, because they know, like you said, they're not the expert. They don't want to go and read a YouTube video on how to inject myself Botox and go and do it themselves, because that could be a disaster. You can't buy Botox, and even if you can, in the gray market, you might look like a monster. So you don't want to do that, right? It's the same thing. So they start researching, educating themselves, and they find you. So when they find you, website is a powerful tool in helping them choose you. Remember, they were not referred by their brother or their cousin or another doctor. They are finding you because you showed up many times for different searches they were doing. Now, when they go to the website, how do you influence them so they're choosing you and calling your office? I'll give you 2 ideas. One is videos, because when we look at getting people to choose you, I believe in Dr. Robert Cialdini's influence principles. He's, in my mind, the godfather of influence. He wrote the book called Influence in the 80s, and he wrote a book called Persuasion. These are all best-selling books. We'll add it in the show notes. If anybody wants to buy it and read it, it will be definitely worth your time. Of course, read Influence, because that's more of the introductory book, and Persuasion is more very specific examples and what you can do and how you can do things. That would be the second book I would read. And, do that. And so one of the principles he talks about to influence people is called liking. We do business with people we like. So we recommend to our clients, do short 45-second videos where you say, hello, I am so-and-so. I have been helping patients with, the page they're on. So let's say it talks about Botox, with Botox for these reasons. We would love to help you. Look at some of the work I've done, some of the results we were able to produce. Call my office. Just saying hello and welcome, especially when they're browsing and your competition doesn't, helps them like you. They see you are easy to talk to, you are down to earth, you're welcoming, smiling, simple things, right? I mean, one of the books I read early on in my career is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. He just talks about be interested in people, be welcoming, be nice, be kind. That's all it takes. You don't need to be this superstar, relationship expert to get people to like you. Just be interested in them. Say hello, welcome, just simple things. Keep it short, use simple language. Don't make them feel stupid by using complex language. So that's one tip I would give you on the website. And then as you start getting reviews, make sure those are highlighted. So one of the things our team does is we would showcase reviews on relevant pages. So people are like, wow, this practice is amazing. And they're not just saying it, but people on Google are saying it. These are Google reviews saying it. And both those tips will take those people who found you on Google or Instagram or whatever, and then convince them to choose you.
Naren, if I, again, listening to this and I hear that we're trying to build a culture of trust and credibility, utilizing information and experience, and then inviting people to the next right step. What can they do to move forward, and what does that look like? And I think the key word, and I think this is so true in all of our organizations, and it has, as Dale Carnegie talks about it too, he says, it's about building trust. And so the next question I want to ask you is, why is social media important for building trust and reaching potential patients, and which platforms work best for aesthetics?
Yeah. So I think, to me, reviews is game number one. In other words, you could do any kind of marketing, but if you don't have 100 plus Google reviews baseline, I mean, I have clients who have 700, 1,000, 1,500 plus Google reviews. So I'm not saying stop at 100, but to me, like 100 is like, kindergarten, at least get to kindergarten, right? So that would be, and again, you can also focus on Facebook reviews, Yelp reviews. I would focus on Google because, that's what 90% of the people use today in deciding whether you are the one they're going to choose or somebody else. So I would prioritize that first as my social media, making sure every month you're getting 10 or more Google reviews. That way in a year, that's 120 new Google reviews. That would be my minimal benchmark as to the one thing. Like, remember, you can work hard, do 100 things, or do the most important first, and then make sure that's done well before you worry about the second thing. That would be number one for me. And there are lots of tips. You can have QR codes where they can scan it. You can ask, you can have a bonus for your team for getting Google reviews. You can have a champion who's responsible for it. You can follow up on it in your daily huddle. So there's a lot of tips. I can do a whole webinar on how to get Google reviews, how to get 10 or more Google reviews. But I think we may have done one like that. Maybe we can put a link to that podcast if anyone is curious. So that would be my number one goal. Number two is realize who you are. If you are in that 1% influencer type and you don't mind spending 20 hours a week for the next 2 to 3 years to get to 100,000 followers, lean in, right? Like, if that's your strength, why not? Being 1 in 100 is not easy. So if you kind of comes naturally, you love it, you enjoy it, lean in, right? But if you're not 1 in 100, I see a lot of people also like chasing their tails. They keep doing social media because everybody else is doing it, but it doesn't work for everybody else except for that 1%, right? Of course, you can lean into ads and stuff, but then ads are going to cost you a lot of money. So be careful. I really think self-awareness is important. Are you committed to being in that 1%, getting to that 100,000 follower? And if you are, then lean in. If not, and if you have limited time, just focus on getting 10 reviews a month. Just make sure that you hit day in and day out, month in and month out, and then once that's going, then maybe one of the things we do for our clients is we create graphics with reviews and, Christmas graphics and so forth, just so that people know you have a presence. So make sure you have a presence, but don't expect 100,000 views or even 1,000 views unless you are committed to being an influencer and like leaning into creating all kinds of awesome content that people can't live without.
Yeah, you remind me of a ratio that I've always liked, is this idea of focus 80% of what I do on the 20% of what I'm great at. And I think that, it's so tempting in today's culture to be a generalist and then at the end of the day, be frustrated by it. And with things moving so quickly, it's about really, but it's taking time to actually assess what it is that you're great at. And so sometimes it's not just the great at who you are and why you matter, but what you do and how you do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, like we live in a world where there are feeds, YouTube, Instagram, saying, you must do this, you must do that. And there are 300 things we can do. But most people who are trying to do 300 never do anything well. I mean, you notice there's a reason why the 1% is a 1%. And if I were to like look at one characteristic that determines the 1% in any business, any field, is one thing. They know what's important and they know how to use that 80-20 rule. What are the 20% of things I need to do that's going to give me 80% of the benefit? And they ignore everything else. They know what's important and they know how to focus only on the important. Most of us, there's a story that I heard when I was growing up as a kid. This comes from the Mahabharata. And so this great warrior goes to try to win this princess, and the dad, who was the king, said, here is this beautiful golden fish hanging from the wall, and the palace is like full of gold, and all kinds of you just mind-blowing stuff, right? They have all the wealth. I mean, this is the kings back thousands of years ago, and anybody who can shoot down the fish, but they can't look at the fish. They have to look at the reflection of the fish in that pond, in the middle of the palace. And by looking at the reflection, you can shoot down the fish. The first one to do that will get my daughter, right? That's the way, because I want to know I'm marrying my daughter to the best warrior in the four corners, right? So everybody else comes in, and there's a guy at the beginning says, "What do you see?" And they say, "Oh, I see the painting and this and that and everything else, and how opulent it is and whatnot," right? And then finally Arjun, who's kind of one of the heroes of Mahabharata, comes and he asks him, "What do you see?" I see the fish, right? He says, "What do you see?" "I see the fish." He doesn't see anything else. He doesn't see the people. He doesn't see the glamour. He doesn't see nothing. He just sees the fish. Why? He's there to drop the fish. He's not there for anything else. So he just knows that's all he needs to focus on. Nothing more, nothing less. Just sees the fish. That's it, right? Obviously, he drops the fish. Where we go wrong as a species, especially in this world of information overload, is we see 3,000 things, and we are doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and we just go around in circles. Anyways, and then you decide, how come Elon Musk has $400 billion, and he started out as a kid with $100,000 in loans when he was 23 years old. And 27 years later, he goes from a kid with $100,000 in loan to being worth $400 billion. Just one simple thing that he does at such a high level that I think we all can learn from. Just knowing what's important and focusing on what's important. And I agree. So focus on that 10 Google reviews a month. Like, just do that. Everything else will work out. Don't get distracted.
That's a beautiful. I love that story. I said, now, just for the record, for our listeners, that was not a marriage strategy that Naren was proposing. I know he has a couple of daughters. I don't think he'd be applying that for his. But, hey, listen, I do want to.
This is true 2,000 years ago. I don't think we live that way anymore.
Some things carry forward, but maybe not that. The value of precious stones and minerals. The interesting thing too, I think it's important to recognize there that when we do when something doesn't work out or we're frustrated by it, we tend to, when we're generalists, we tend to focus. We need to focus ourselves on something. We focus on that negative, and we stop losing sight of the positive. We stop, I like to say, giving ourselves a pat on the back and reinforcing what we're doing well. And I think that's the other thing, that when you've got it really not a shotgun approach, but that rifle approach, and you really narrowed it down, you can find wins every day, every hour when you need one, and not get caught up on what you didn't do. I ride a motorcycle, and when you're going around a corner, you want to look where you want to go. But if you look where you don't want to go, that's exactly where you'll end up. There's a pretty clear strategy there. So, but listen, I wanted to, just with watching our time, and I've got a question here that as we kind of move into the new year, what's one or two digital strategies every practice should prioritize to grow in 2025? Now, I know we're talking about reviews here, but yeah.
I really think two things. One is things you can do, which is Google reviews, 10 a month, right? Just keep getting 10, what I call paragraph or love letter reviews a month. So these are reviews where people say in sentences, not just 5 stars and no words. And the second one is SEO. It'll take time, but if you're going to get a 5 times advantage, because your cost of acquiring a new patient is 1/5 the cost of the next closest one, I would lean in. I would spend the year and try to get into that top 5%. How do you know you're in the top 5%? You will rank for 100 or more keywords and phrases on page 1 of Google, meaning you go into Google Analytics and look at what the keywords and phrases people are typing in to find you. And for at least 100 of the good ones, where you have 20, 30, 40 people typing that keyword every month, you are on page 1, meaning you are in the top 10 results. So that's what I would focus on. And that can be done. Of course, you need the right partner. And one of the things we do is help practices with that. But if you focus on it and you know how to play the game and how to work with your partner, you will do really well.
Excellent. Right? That, I think that this whole thing with Google reviews, I love that phrase, love letters. I mean, that's what it really is. One of the things I learned in my short stint as a car salesman many, many years ago was the one thing I had never learned how to do was to ask for the sale. people always joke, so you could sell ice to Eskimos, and I was just this great relational guy and could connect everybody, but I didn't know how to ask for the sale. And I think that's true. And when we talk about, people need to be asked to leave a review. People need to be invited. New York Times just put out, they did a thing where they asked people to stop and just to look at these objects on a page for 10 minutes. And they surveyed these people. So basically stop doing anything. And the whole idea of this was to get you to focus and just kind of on nothing but this for 10 minutes, and just to see how distracted we are. And of all they expected, 1-2% of the people would actually do it. 25% of the people that did actually stopped and watched it for 10 minutes. They were asked to do something. And I think that it's really about just being intentional. But we can't ask for, it's like that saying, we can't give away what we don't have.
Yeah.
And so if we've told the story, if we've created trust and credibility, and we have a relationship with them, it's okay. We can ask for the review. As a matter of fact, at the end of this podcast, I'm going to ask you, we love reviews. I'm going to ask you to leave us a review.
Yes.
We practice what we preach. So let me just, I want to go to, I've got one other question I really wanted to kind of jump into today, because I know that having Naren here, he has an 18 plus years of experience. There's a lot of clients, and I know there's hundreds, if not thousands, of success stories from practices working with Ekwa Marketing. Can you give our listeners one or two examples of your favorites?
Yeah, I mean, I'll share two. One is Jeff Richman. He and I met, I guess, in 2011, and he ended up being one of my co-founders of the Business of Aesthetics community, and became a dear friend. And so I still remember my very first client was Dr. Mary Lupo, and she knew Jeff, and Jeff heard about us through Dr. Lupo, and he was spending $50,000 at the time, and he's like, I want to cut my budget and I want to get more patients. This is just unsustainable because I'm spending too much money for Google Ads. By the way, Google Ad cost today is 3 times more than what it used to be at 2011. So if he was doing the same thing today, he would be spending like $150,000. So we started working, and he was able to significantly cut his budget and increase his results like 2 or 3x. And today, I guess going back to 13, 14 years now, he's still a client, and he's one of our best clients. And of course, we ended up doing other things because we became friends. So he knows me. I'm a straight shooter. I'll tell him what I can do and cannot do. I don't want to tell people things I'm not good at and say, I'll try. I don't want to try. Either I'm the best in the world at it, or I won't take you on. So that's how we started. So he's a great example. So they get, close to like 100 new patient calls a month. They rank for 700 keywords on page 1, 700. So they're not even in the top 5%. They're probably in the top 0.5%. They run one of the largest and the most successful practices in Oregon. So, and it's very tiny, right? Because they don't need a lot of people to do stuff, because the marketing machine is so powerful. They just have some superstars who can harvest what the marketing brings and build relationships with patients and all that stuff. So it's a tiny team, but they're crushing it. And I think one of the key pieces is, think of your business as 6, 7, 8 machines that work really well. Marketing is one of those machines. Marketing works well. They really focused on the other machines like patient experience, finance. So all these machines work well for them, and they're just crushing it year after year. And they've been doing it for a decade. So that's one example. And then I'll pick a newer client. And of course, I cannot use the name because I haven't gotten the permission. So this particular client is, so Jeff runs a MedSpa. So this time I'll pick a plastic surgeon, and this particular client started with us. Plastic surgery is really hard because, it is intrusive, right? You're cutting open people, and it's a lot more expensive than Botox. So people are more selective. So we took this particular person. He was a professor at an Ivy League, medical school. I don't want to name the name. And he just decided to go on his own. So we took him as a client, and we helped him through that. And we kind of guided him through the whole process, like, building the website, adding before and afters, adding videos, working on Google reviews. He was a great student, even though he's like one of the best in the world in what he does. Like, there's only like 5 people like him, but he listens when it comes to marketing. He took our advice. He did what he needs to do. We did our part. He ranked for, I think 100 keywords or 111 keywords by, I think, 8 months or something, and then continues to rank more and more, and he's crushing it. Most people who start out as a plastic surgeon, like they are starving for 2, 3, 4 years, and within like a year and a half, he's on the top of his game. And we've done that again and again in plastic surgery. And I'll give you one last example: dermatology. I gave you a MedSpa and a plastic surgery example. Dermatology, we have clients who go after medical side or aesthetic side or the combination of two. And we have clients who get, 100 new patients a month, 80 new patients a month, 70 new patients a month, just on aesthetics. Of course, the results continue to improve over time because SEO builds on what happened last year before, and so forth. And though you have to put extra effort to kind of get there sooner. Like 95% of our clients don't leave us. And that's the metric I focus on as the CEO, because that tells me we are doing something right. If your clients are willing to pay you decent amount of money month after month for 10 years, 15 years till they retire, that's a good sign. And some of our clients, even after they sold to a DSO, which is huge, and they're like my way or highway, insisted that the marketing stays the same, because they know if they get out of the marketing, all of a sudden the practice is going to just die. So, Mary Lupo is one of those people, we do her marketing now, even though she's part of a larger group and so forth.
Well, very nice. As I hear those 3 stories, I would guess that if I asked each of them, I said, so before you met Naren and started working with him, how did you feel about all of this external stuff that you really didn't have any expertise in, and how did that affect your personal life, your own time, your own self, just how you prioritize things? And then conversely today, what does that look like? I'm pretty confident each one of them are going to say that just what we were talking about earlier, that by moving away from things they weren't experts at, created space for them to be the best version of themselves. That makes sense?
I think you're bringing up a good point, right? One of the things that holds us back is our ego. Just because I'm good at marketing doesn't mean I know how to, treat my disease or make me look better than I want, I currently look or I want to look, right? Like I haven't gone to the school. I haven't spent the 10,000 hours, becoming a master at it. So one of the secrets of the most successful people, and I know, as I said, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I love studying successful people who build successful, institutions, companies, etc., is they surround themselves with the best of the best who know what who are the best in that domain, and they listen to them. They don't try to, like even this particular plastic surgeon I was talking about, he is one of the best. He is at the top university in medical school, one of the top 3 or 4 medical schools in the world, doing plastic surgery for them for the last decade and a half, right? But he listens to me. I mean, like I'm not an MD. Like if I were to stand next to him on a podium and talk, I'll be like a nobody. Nobody even wants to shake my hands. This guy is like a god. But he has the humility to know, okay, just like he's good at that, find people who are good at other things and surround themselves. So I think that's a great takeaway, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Naren. I think it's just so, as you heard me say many times, obviously there's a transactional nature of what we do and how we do it. There's also this relational nature of who we are and why we matter. And both those spaces need to be working together to be the best version of ourselves. And something that we get to give away as leaders in our organization. And obviously as that reflects the brand that we present into the digital world of that moves at light speed, that we've made quite clear. So our time is coming to an end, and I just want to thank you so much, Naren, for joining us today and sharing your insights with us. Wonderful and great stories. Thank you. I want to take a moment to also thank our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you. And a big thank you also goes out to our sponsors, Ekwa Marketing, who are experts in digital marketing for aesthetic practices. Now, I mentioned before that now I want you to stop and think about this, but just don't run by this. This is usually what happens. But I mentioned to you that we're offering you a digital marketing consultation from Ekwa Marketing. Results in a tailor-made 12-month digital strategy for your practice. It's kind of what we're talking about. However, Naren said something earlier. He says, these paid ads and stuff, it tends to sound like, well, what's the catch? Or what's wrong with this? That's our first thought. And I guarantee that most of you listening are thinking that question, those 2 questions, or some version of those about what I just said. And I can tell you this is the CEO of Ekwa Marketing we're talking to. This isn't a catch. This is him wanting to give away the best version of what he has learned and done in a way that can help you be the best version of you moving forward. The two questions I think that need to replace those questions are the ones that I find I ask is, the first question is, what's at risk for me to go ahead and sign up for this? And the second question is, what's at risk if I don't? And I think that's really what it comes down to. But I'm not trying to sell you, but I'll just give you the link that you'll be able to go to do that is at www.businessofesthetics.org. And you can go ahead there and register for that.
/MSM. So I think it's businessofesthetics.org/MSM for marketing strategy meeting.
Thank you, Naren. And so there, that's exactly, I just really want to encourage you because I think that there's just so many things going on, so many opportunities, and it's so easy just to push them aside in the name of trickery. It's a funny word. I've never used that word not for a long time. But listen, if you like our podcast, what do you think I'm going to say now? Please share it with your friends and colleagues. What a great opportunity to set someone else up for success as well, just as we've been doing with you. Also, please don't forget to leave us a review. You know we love reviews and we know how important they are. So, having said that, thank you for the privilege of your time and wishing you all an amazing week ahead.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Business of Aesthetic podcast series, brought to you by our gold sponsor, Ekwa Marketing. Would you like to join our growing group of aesthetic industry experts and get featured on the Business of Aesthetics podcast? Or do you know someone who would love to share their strategies for growth in the aesthetic business, providing quality patient care or their clinical expertise? Head over to www.businessofesthetics.org podcast show and apply to be featured as a guest on the show. Remember to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen. If you would like to engage with today's speakers or any of our past speakers, join our Facebook group or LinkedIn group by searching for Business of Aesthetics. Thank you, and have a great day.